B12 issues, they're only for vegans because you got a steak in your hand and you're fine. That is not the case. It's not that hard to become deficient in vitamin B12. Okay, it happens like kind of cumulatively, but also remember that on a lower carb diet, you are losing more water. Your kidneys are expelling water. They're causing the release of water because insulin levels are low. So yes, electrolytes are important, but also you have this micronutrient issue that could come to light because water-soluble vitamins are going to flush on out too. If you've ever seen your urine be very bright yellow or even kind of like neon looking after taking a bunch of vitamin B or taking a bunch of like nutritional yeast or something like that, well, that's because your body is excreting those B vitamins, okay? It's very common, and on keto, you're going to lose those more. So I wanted to address some common ways to get vitamin B12 that you may not be thinking of. Okay, now initially, if you're consuming a good amount of red meat, yeah, like a 100 gram serving of beef is going to have like 200% of your RDA of vitamin B12. Now, I eat red meat usually once a day, sometimes like every other day, and it all depends on what I'm doing. The point is that probably aren't gonna have a huge deficiency there, but there's a lot of people that don't get a bunch of red meat in. How can you get it in? Well, eggs are gonna be a tremendous source, but we have to look at a couple of things with eggs. So 100 grams of eggs is going to get you about a 40 to 50% RDA of your vitamin B12. But that is for the standard person. Remember, okay, we have a lot of bioindividuality. So sure, eggs are going to be great, but also it depends on the egg too. Now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole too much, but what I am going to address is that, again, if you're doing keto, you're losing more of those water-soluble vitamins. So you might safely need to double that to account for how much you're going to urinate out, right? It's a very important thing to pay attention to. Now, I addressed this in another video, but one of the ways that you can add more vitamin B12 that people don't really think of is by using a cheese like Swiss cheese. Some of these higher altitude cheeses, like Gruyere and Swiss, they have higher amounts of vitamin B12. Now, I'm gonna go out and maybe it's because they're at altitude and you have to have more oxygen saturation, all this, you know, for the animal to live. Maybe that's just kind of my own speculation. But the point is, one slice of Swiss cheese is like 30% of your overall value of B12. Now, vitamin B12 is important for red blood cell formation. But one of the things that people don't talk about enough is how important it is for DNA repair. Okay, when we go through the healthy aging process, we have a level of DNA sort of repair that's occurring. And if we don't have enough B12, well, if that continually happens, or we're continually having these deficiencies, that can inhibit DNA repair. That can slow down how our DNA is functioning and therefore living up to our genetic potential. One of the things I like most about the ketogenic protocol, and I try not to be dogmatic about it, I just like it personally for this, is it has a huge effect on allowing our genes to be expressed. Okay, that is one of the benefits of BHB, of being in ketosis, okay, is you have this beta hydroxybutyrate that is a histone deacetylase inhibitor, allowing you to access your genetic blueprint more. If you are able to access your genetic blueprint more, wouldn't you argue that it becomes even more imperative that we take care of the DNA repair process? So I think that vitamin B12 becomes extra important on keto. Okay, so we do need to pay attention to this because it's giving us more of that benefit from keto. I've got a few interesting foods to share with you, one of which is one of my personal favorites because I can get creative with it on keto. That is nori. Okay, 4 grams of nori seaweed, like those seaweed sheets, is gonna have 100% of your RDA for vitamin B12. Okay, so a couple of those sheets and you are well beyond what you need. So what do? I take those nori sheets and I put tuna in it, or I put chicken in it, or I put cauliflower rice in it, or I make my own little dish, or heaven forbid, I actually put some sashimi in it and make it an actual like Japanese style dish, right? Makes yourself a sushi burrito. The point is you can get your vitamin D intake in that way, even if you're not eating red meat. Plus you're getting an extra benefit with nori by getting what are called beta glucans, a very, very powerful, if not the most powerful prebiotic fiber that is there. Very interesting stuff there, and I've got plenty of videos on that. Okay, then the International Journal of Food Sciences had published that probiotic yogurt improved vitamin B12 levels in children that were deficient in B12. Does that translate to adults? More than likely. I mean, the fact is like when you have the bacteria in the equation too, you get sort of a, for lack of a better term, a pre-digested form of protein, and you get this whole better assimilation of these nutrients. So yes, you're getting your vitamin B12 in that way, which by the way, a lot of the things I'm talking about, like nori and this kind of stuff, you can get through Thrive Market. I put a link down below. So if you're doing keto and you're a little bit lost, I recommend you check them out. They're a supporter and a sponsor of this channel. They are super awesome. And you can go to their website and you can sort by diet. So what I do is I go to their website, I go to diet, I select keto, and then under keto, I have all these different tabs and little check boxes that I can do. I can check for gluten-free, I can check for chocolate, I can check, whatever category I want within a given diet. So I always recommend it for people that are just kind of getting started or they're confused and they just need to know how to, wouldn't it be cool if you could go to a grocery store and be like, I'm gonna go down the keto aisle. I know that everything on this aisle is ketogenic. But the cool thing is with Thrive, almost all the products there are products that I would approve. So it's like, okay, I have a grocery store with a keto aisle, and it's also a Thomas DeLauer approved keto aisle. Wouldn't that make things easy? So that's about as close as you can get. So big thank you to Thrive Market for the continued sponsorship and support on this channel. There is a link down below. If you use that link, you'll get 25% off your first order as well as getting a free gift. So use that link down below. Okay, another one is gonna be fermented black tea. Regular black tea is actually high in B12, but when it's fermented, and there's multiple different kind of forms, you can just Google that, or you can literally drink kombucha, but a lot of times the sugar content is a little bit too high for keto on that. You're gonna get a decent amount of vitamin B12 on that too. Okay, then one of the biggest ones is going to be like chanterelle mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms. Okay, this is kind of interesting because these are decent sources of vitamin B12. Okay, and when you cook them, sometimes it can denature that a little bit, so you just want to account for that. But if you made an omelet with Swiss cheese and added some mushrooms, that could be a great thing for you. Plus, like Costco, and I think Thrive Market has them too, they have these like dried mushroom chips. They're like literally dried mushrooms, which are a great snack that you can have when you're on keto, and you're actually getting your vitamin B12, but plus you're getting some vitamin D too as well. Okay? One of the things I want to caution you with vitamin B12 is that if you're going to mix it into any kind of food sources, I would recommend with keto you add some salt to those food sources. The reason is that's going to help you retain some of that water a little bit more, not in a negative way, not like puffy face McGee, but actually retain it in a positive way so that you're not going to just lose it immediately, right? You're not just going to urinate it out because that can happen on keto. Another source of vitamin B12 that is very amazing and just like so versatile is going to be nutritional yeast. And if you've been a veteran of this channel, you know that I put it on just about everything except for ice cream. So if you put it on asparagus, you put it on Brussels sprouts, you put it on chicken, it gives a cheesy-like consistency without the dairy. Not that you're really caring in this particular case, but it's such a rich source of vitamin B12 and also a rich source of niacin. So sometimes you can get like a little bit of a B12 or sort of a, like a niacin flush, and you kind of feel this like, you feel it. You can get kind of red and you feel flush and you kind of vasodilate. That might be a little bit too much. The point is that's a great source of vitamin B12 that you can mix into your eggs as well. So eggs plus Swiss cheese plus of course your mushrooms plus some nutritional yeast just gives it a full like kind of voluptuous cheesy flavor. Anyhow, the point is don't neglect your vitamin B12. And if you start feeling like you're just feeling sluggish and your workout performance is starting to diminish and nothing else is changing, maybe B12 is something you should address. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel and I'll see you tomorrow.